So I'm going to send this code.
If anyone can hear us, please send an email to Fido. We're having some technical difficulties right now. Good afternoon, everyone. We have folks currently logging in. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're going to give folks about another minute, and then we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nathaniel Cole. Thank you all for being flexible with some of those technical difficulties that we experienced earlier. I'm also going to allow my colleague to introduce herself and give some just overall suggestions and housekeeping around using the GoToWebinar for this particular meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Theda Akronade, and I sent out the meeting agenda earlier this morning, so there's going to be a Q&A session of today's meeting. So I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that in order to ask questions, you could enter them into the chat box, and we'll be monitoring the questions and answering them at the end. So if you have questions that you think of as we go through, you can just type them in, and we'll field them when we're answering the questions at the end of the meeting.
Awesome. So with that, once again, I know a few more folks just joined. We see folks logging in as I speak. Once again, my name is Nathaniel Cole, and I'm a part of America's Promise Alliance's workforce campaign. And so for the agenda for our time together, we're going to start off with a campaign overview to provide additional context to everyone around what this youth employment campaign will be that America's Promise is rolling out. We'll spend about 5 to 7 minutes on the campaign overview. Then we'll talk a little bit about the application process and give another about 7 to 10 minutes for that, and open it up for any questions that you all have that we're able to answer. We want to make sure that this process for you all is one that's as clear as possible so that you are positioning your community in the best light possible. So with that, we're going to start with a little overview about the youth employment campaign. For us, we are really excited about this campaign and what America's Promise is rolling out. For the longest time, our organization has been associated with our Grad Nation campaign, which has been all about young people graduating high school and the importance of a 90% high school graduation rate. Over the years, and most recently, there has been a lot of conversation around our team, our organization, looking at what is that next step after high school graduation. And through a series of conversations, specifically with the City Foundation, last year, America's Promise Alliance received investment to really explore the youth employment space and to launch a campaign that really highlighted the importance of youth employment. So that's just a little bit of context around why we're entering into the youth employment space. I'm now going to go into the what we're looking to do within the youth employment space. Fido and myself joined the APA team last July, and since then we have been scanning the landscape, having conversations with many of the communities that you all are a part of and different entities under the youth employment umbrella. And what we were really intentional about in really building this youth employment campaign is that we wanted the campaign to rest between two pillars. The first pillar is, what is the landscape saying around youth employment? And then the second pillar is, how is APA, America's Promise Alliance, best positioned to take that first step when it comes to youth employment? Between these two pillars is where the campaign will rest. So we've had many conversations with a steering committee of about 20 or so organizations and entities committed to youth employment. And after a course of scanning the landscape and multiple conversations, we have arrived at our goal for this campaign. The goal for this campaign is to push the nation towards full employment for young people by 2030. We wanted to have a goal that was aggressive. We wanted to have a goal that was something that did not rest with one organization or one entity, but something that called the entire country to step up and work together to move the nation forward when it comes to youth employment. We also understand, with this being a very ambitious goal, that there was going to be a lot that we needed to do to be able to move the country in that direction. Something that we have shared over the course of building this campaign is that our intent is for this youth employment campaign to uplift and amplify the work of individuals across the country that are committed to youth employment, and amplify the practices that are happening locally, as well as what needs to be done nationally. So from that space of identifying the goal, we then move to a series of objectives to really help guide this campaign, and also some of the activities that we're looking to do. Just a few of the objectives, and I'm sharing these just to give an additional layer of context, is that one, we want to align the field behind a unifying vision, and we're using that goal to really unify the field. Our second objective is to drive the nation towards action. I'll talk a little bit about that activity in a minute. The third objective is to amplify best practices and strategies. The fourth is to galvanize more cross-sector collaboration. And the fifth is to disseminate knowledge. So with each one of these objectives, they are things that really reign true to America's promise, where we are positioned, and then also to my earlier point, really around us taking that first step and understanding that this campaign is not a silver bullet when it comes to youth employment. But with each of those objectives, I quickly just want to touch on how we've identified activities to carry out those objectives. So with the first one of aligning the field behind a unifying vision, we plan to do that through our traditional communications strategy, our website and landing page to really amplify work that's happening as well, and then also a series of webinars with our second objective of driving organizations and individuals towards action. We plan on doing that through a couple of activities. One is a partnership that we have with LinkedIn to move more individuals to take a public commitment to connect young people to employment opportunities. And we'll be rolling that out at our launch event, which is going to be April the 10th. The third is when I touched on the amplifying best practices. Once again, that goes under the umbrella of a lot of our communication efforts that we do and we have done over time, whether it's our website, our webinars, and other ways to engage on social. Number four, when I talked about the galvanizing more cross-sector collaboration, that's our action roundtables, and that's what we're really excited about and why all of you are here. And with these action roundtables, we're looking to see how communities are bringing diverse stakeholders together and how they're then taking the steps to move their communities forward when it comes to youth employment and what's being done to create additional employment opportunities for young people that's also translating in real numbers. And so with these impact grants that we are looking to provide, we're looking for this to be a space where we learn, and then we also are able to identify actions that need to be taken and that are being taken on a community level, and then our team being able to amplify the work that communities are doing across the country. And then the last objective that I had touched on, the dissemination of knowledge. We have a Center for Promise that's based in Boston that does a lot of research that's youth-centered, and Youth Voice really leads a lot of the work that comes out of that shop. And so we're looking to amplify more research around what young people are saying when it comes to youth employment. One last piece in this overview of the campaign, our framework and the thing that is driving us is what we believe is essential for success, and that's that every young person is ready, connected, and supported to succeed in employment. And so we call it RCS for short, ready, connected, and supported to succeed. We arrived at this place because we understand that a young person's employment journey, with anyone's employment journey, quite honestly, it's a continuum. And depending on where you meet a young person, they might be at a point where they're getting ready to work and they need coaching and support, or they're looking for that at that ready stage. The connected stage is where they're looking for that connection to employment, how to navigate that interview process, the follow-up, how I'm engaging in this space of being connected to opportunity is essential, and there's a lot of work happening around there. And then the third piece is to support it to succeed. So after a young person has that employment opportunity, how do they thrive in that space, and what are the systems, the supports that are allowing them to succeed? And when we look at that youth employment continuum and understanding that when it comes to our partners, because we have a little over 400 partners across the country that are members of America's Promise Alliance, everyone falls along that continuum in some way. And to my earlier point, we want to make sure that this campaign is one that speaks to that continuum and speaks to youth employment on a very large scale, and amplifies and lifts up the work across the country that's happening. So that's the overview. Just wanted to lay a foundation before we make the shift now to the RFP that we sent out. So we're now going to shift to the document or the link that we provided a few weeks ago that takes you to the page for the youth employment campaign. And we made a few changes. And with those changes, we wanted to name those. And then we also wanted to um, uh, provide like some additional space for you all to be able to navigate some of those changes. And these changes are very minor. So the first is the language. So this is now called the Impact Grant. At first, we were calling this the Acceleration Grant because we wanted to accelerate the work that you all are doing. But then we got feedback that with a grant that has recently been awarded. It was also called an acceleration grant, and we wanted to make sure that there's not confusion in the field or in the space. So this is now called the Impact Grant because we're looking to identify actions that your communities are taking to really move young people towards employment. So just wanted to name that piece. A few other pieces that we updated in going through this is just some of the definitions around the ready, connected, and supported. We made some minor tweaks, just a one line here and there for the definitions to flesh it out just a little bit more. And then the other piece that I wanted to name is around the questions. Now we know some of you have already submitted your application, and with the submissions that have already come in, we are given a grace period. We've extended it to Friday. So instead of applications being due Wednesday, if you need more time to make edits or make tweaks to what was already submitted, you have until Friday to get that in. For folks that have not submitted their application yet, if Wednesday still works for you, move forward, definitely do that. But just wanted to know that we have pushed it back to Friday to give every community that time and space for the additions that we made to the 3 questions.
And just a note on that, if you have submitted your application and would like it back so that you can have the content that you wrote before, you can just send me an email and I'll send you back your application so you can use that to add on to the questions.
Absolutely. And then with the questions, I'll start with the ones that we made some adjustments to. The first one would be question 3. We added an additional line at the end, so it reads, explain how 20,000 will help improve or advance work that your organization is already doing to bring multiple stakeholders together to increase youth employment. At first, we did not have that youth employment piece, and we wanted to make sure it was really clear what it is that we are after and what we're seeking and what we're going after. And quite honestly, that's to really identify what's being done to move young people to more to employment and to increase youth employment rates locally. So that's the piece that we just wanted to give a little bit more weight around. And we'll take this time to go through each question just to give some additional context from our side, and then we'll open it up to you all for any questions that you have. Once again, the point of this conversation is to give a space for any questions about the questions or about the process, about what we're looking to do, and just to be able to have a dialogue around that. So with that first question, describe your organization and experience serving the opportunity youth population, developing partnerships with employers, and how your organization engages youth in this work. For this, let us know your story. Let us know your organization's or your community story, the work that's being done. I will say for the applications that have come in so far, what we really have enjoyed reading and learning is about the story and about what those specific activities are or engagements are. Just to name what I shared earlier, we're looking to see how communities are bringing multiple stakeholders together. So we want to understand if you are currently bringing like government and business community, youth voice, the practitioners all around the table to really move folks towards action. We want to know about that. And if you're able to name that, that's amazing. If it's a program or a project that you currently have that's doing that, and that's just an aspect, please, be honest about like this is an aspect of a current program but just being able to name that for us so that we know exactly where communities are. Because ultimately, and this comes across when we talk about the commitment, we're looking to have quarterly calls with the 4 communities that we identify. We also plan to come out and visit those 4 communities over the course of the year. We also plan to bring those 4 communities together in a setting similar like this virtually to be able to share information, to learn from one another, and then ultimately to amplify the work that you all are doing in your respective communities. So for us, we want to be able to know when you're bringing individuals together, multiple stakeholders together around this youth employment topic and issue, we want to be a part of that process of what is being said locally. What are those conversations looking like? What are some of the pain points? What are some of the challenges? And we're trying to get all of those nuggets so that as we go throughout this campaign, we are able to inform other communities that are trying to do what you're doing or something similar, of things to navigate, things to be mindful of, so that we're really moving the country forward under this umbrella of youth employment. The second question is please describe what measures you currently track related to Opportunity Youth in your community and specifically related to employment. How often is the data collected, analyzed, and shared? So we're fully aware that some communities have already received funding from the Schultz Family Foundation around that data piece. We're excited about that, and the other reason why we wanted to partner with Aspen Communities is because you all are doing some amazing work. I've been able to go to a few of the summits since I've started here with America's Promise Alliance and sit back and watch the work happen in real time and hear about some of the things that you all are navigating. So there's a really tight community that is supporting the work that all of your communities are doing. Two, we wanted to make sure that we were investing in communities where there is some type of structure and infrastructure when it comes to this youth employment topic. This is a big topic. It takes a lot of work, and then we're realistic on this end, recognizing that $20,000 is not a lot of money, but with the $20,000, we wanted to be able to help accelerate. That's why we were using Accelerate originally, to accelerate existing work. We're not looking for communities to start an entirely new project. We're not looking for communities to just make up something and say, this is our dream. Like, if you give us $20,000, then we'll be able to go after additional funding. We want to be able to invest in something that is currently sustainable and that's working locally for your respective communities. So just wanted to name a few of those pieces. And when we talk about that data piece, I do want to share that if you are the backbone for multiple organizations, while naming who the organizations are that you're working with is really great, and we want to see that and we love that. If you are able to provide just an additional line around not only how often the data is collected, but really what data is collected, and then how often it's shared out. If it's shared out once a year or however often, being able to name that is great. But then if you were also able to provide us additional information around that report, and I know it's not a feature or a function on the application, but if you were able to send an additional email of what that report is, that would be great for us to have, and it would be great for us to add to your application. So that additional attachment is not an attachment feature that we currently have on the JOT form. However, if you send us the email saying what your community is, and then you attach what that report is that's sent out, that would really help your application. So just want to share that with you all as well. And you can send that directly to Fido, and we'll make sure that that attachment is included with your application when the review panel comes together. And that would just allow us to really see what this data is saying, what the type of data is, would be really great. And then on that point, whether you include this next piece that I'm about to share in question 2 or in question 3, sometimes when percentages are shared around the number of young people like served in a program and the successes. The percentage is great, but we would also like to see the number because, in full transparency, for us, we want to know if 80% of young people through this program are being successful. 80% of what number? Are we talking about 80% of 1,000? Are we talking about 80% of 100? Or are we talking about 80% of 10 young people? Just in full transparency, I come from the nonprofit space. I know how sometimes things are written, and what we want is like the numbers to really understand the impact that is currently being made. And I share that I come from the nonprofit space so that you all know for us at this table and for us that's doing this work, any impact is amazing impact. So for us to really be able to understand and see what those numbers are is just really beneficial as we are thinking about this campaign. And then when we go to question 3, explain how 20,000 will help improve or advance work that your organization is already doing to bring multiple stakeholders together to increase youth employment. We really, really want to know how like you all are thinking about youth employment in your community, how you're thinking about that intersection of opportunity youth and employment and what is needed and how you all are planning to tackle that. And once again, we know every community is different. So please just lean into this space based on how your organization or organizations or your communities are looking to do this work. And once again, like honesty is, I hate to take it back to my elementary school teacher, honesty is the best policy. So if you're able just to give us that, it will allow us to know really what your community is doing and how, if selected, we can best support the work that's happening from where we are. And quite honestly, that's the thing that we're looking for throughout these applications when we're reading them. We want to know where your respective communities are so that when we are selecting the 4, we know how best to support those 4, and then we'll also have follow-up conversations as well. So because of time, I do want to stop there, and I want to honor the space to open it up for any questions and answers. So at this moment, we will open it up for any questions, and if you are able to type your question into the chat box that is alongside the video, that would be awesome. And Fido is typing a message right now to really highlight where that chat box is. So if people are typing, I will give just a few more pieces around when communities will be notified. We are looking to pull together our review committee early April, like that first week in April, to be able to review and decide on the applications. We are sending the applications to the review committee ahead of time so that they have time to look at it before we bring everyone together in person. And then we are looking to notify communities that have been selected. Is it the first week? No, the second week?
First week.
Yeah. So the end of that week, right? Yeah. So the end of the first week in April, we'll notify you all of who the 4 communities are, because we are then going to announce the 4 communities April the 10th. April the 10th is going to be the launch of the Youth Employment Campaign, and we plan to name the 4 communities that have received this award April 10th during that entire day of launch activities. So it doesn't look like we have any questions from folks. I will say that if any of you want to speak offline or have a follow-up conversation, please reach out to Fido, and we're happy to hop on a call and talk through any questions you may have. In addition to that, feel free to email us any questions that you have, and we look forward to receiving the applications this Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great one.